Hello again, Brian King here. I had an interesting talk with a client this morning, and the topic of codependency came up. And some of you may be familiar with that, some of you not too familiar with it. So let me give you a sense of what the kind of the clinical understanding of codependency is. It's somebody that is in a very imbalanced relationship, a very one-sided relationship. Hey there, Claire, glad you could make it. A one-sided relationship in which somebody is very needy and the other person wants to be needed. So what happens? The person that wants to be needed finds somebody that's needy, they come together in some way and create this wonderfully imbalanced, dysfunctional relationship. Because what makes it dysfunctional? Because their needs aren't really being met. They're working really hard to get some need met, but they both feel empty somehow. Like there's something that's just not working that they can't seem to find together, and yet they stay in this relationship. And people that tend to learn to be codependent as a way to be in relationships continue to look for increasingly more codependent relationships until you are surrounded by codependent relationships. And then suddenly you find yourself exhausted and sucked dry and you wonder why that's happening. Hey, Roseanne, thank you so much for joining. I see there are some other people coming in too. And as you're arriving, please say hi, introduce yourself. And one of the things that I want to know from you, I don't know how honest you're willing to be because not everybody is as out there as I can be, is what is your experience with these, with codependent relationships, with this imbalance, where there seems to be a needy person who doesn't seem to want to be empowered, who doesn't seem to want to step up and get out of that role. And then there's the other person, once again, that needs to be needed and is more than happy to allow you to be needy so that you two can work together. Now, as I was talking to this client about codependency, one of the big signs of somebody who is erring towards codependency is somebody who really wants to please people all the time. That is the case of somebody who holds himself responsible for somebody else's emotions. So if somebody's upset, if somebody's mad, you must have done something wrong. So you need to correct it. And you don't feel good about yourself and you're not happy until you can make them happy. So you're basically policing their emotions. Now, depending on who this person is, they could begin to learn that if I'm in a very sorry state, this person is going to show up and take care of me. I like this. So there is a bonus in being sad, mopey, anxious, depressed all the time because this person wants to please me. So this person's going to fawn all over me, tell me how wonderful I am, and want to do things to make me happy. So yeah, I could be happy. I could choose to be less anxious, but where's the payoff in that? Who's going to come in and please me if I be less needy? So that's the people pleaser part. And I mulled this over my head a little bit. I came up with some terms, they're by no means clinical or whatever. They just kind of came up in my head by virtue of this conversation. And I offer them to you as means to reflect upon where this codependency might be showing up in your own life. So one, of course, is the people pleasing, which I just got done describing. The other is the people fixing. That you are looking for damaged people, damaged in your estimation, because you know better. You know what's better for them, what would make their life higher quality. So you need to run in and fix them. You need to tell them what they're doing wrong. You need to tell them what they should be doing instead. You need to tell them who they ought to be. Now, I don't know about you, but my experience with mother-in-laws is pretty much right along this track. They come in and tell you, you need to clean your house this way, and this is how you're supposed to organize this, and who taught you how to cook something this way? This is what you're supposed to do. And they want to fix you. Because they look at you essentially as somebody that's not good enough. They are superior in some way, and they need to come and fix that. Well, man, if this is the job that you take on, how frustrating must that be? Because you're always pointing your finger at somebody, oh man, if I was in charge here, this is what this person would be doing. Man, if I had my say in the matter, this is what would be going on. And you're always looking for things that are wrong with the world and wrong with people. And you always want to lecture and fix. Coffee break. Then there are the people rescuers, the ones who are always on alert for somebody that not so much needs to be fixed, where you're just going to give them your 2 cents, your authority, but people who are in danger, who are fragile, who need you to scoop in and solve their problems for them. So the people fixer is telling you what to do. The people rescuer wants to do it for you. You don't worry about it, honey. I'll take care of everything. And when you are raising kids with special needs, thanks, Lisa. Oh, my water's coming after the coffee, Lisa. Don't worry. Lisa makes sure I drink enough water during the day, and I'm very religious about that. So thanks for the accountability, Lisa. I guarantee you there'll be plenty of water in my day. So the people rescuers can be parents of kids with special needs, ADHD, Asperger's, dyslexia, because when you don't know the reasons behind a problem, because you don't quite understand what's happening with your child yet, if you don't know what the problem is, you don't know what those solutions are, so you don't know how to empower your child. So what you do instead is you just rush in and fix the problem, because it's easier to do that than to deal with another meltdown, another panic attack, other behavior. You just kind of want to put out the fire before it even gets a chance to start. And this is a very destructive pattern to get into. Speaking from experience here, when my kids were younger and I didn't know any better, I would want to make sure problems didn't happen. Roseanne, she said, this is the current issue in my life. I've been an awful codependent all my life. Those people are drawn to me. I'm ready to not be that person. You have come to the right place. Because this is probably one of the number one things that I work on with my clients. And I'll tell you, Roseanne, right now, you can unlearn this. Because it's a pattern that you learned. If you can learn it, you can unlearn it. Okay? And speaking as a recovering codependent, my mom was a big-time rescuer when I was growing up. I was the fragile emotion. I could cry at the drop of a hat. Nervous knots because of my social anxiety. Undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know why I was having such a hard time. She just knew that I was struggling, and the only thing left for her to do, without any diagnoses or tools, was to run in and rescue. And she did such a beautiful job of it that when I got married the first time, I probably talked to my mom more than I talked to my wife. And that causes issues. But in the past decade or so, the boundaries between my mother and I have become much more clear, to where I no longer am interested in being rescued. So what kind of happened in that? She started coming to me to rescue her with problems, because she still wanted the codependency, but the roles shifted because I was being much more empowered. So I'm working on lifting her up, so that she can stand on her own 2 feet, so to speak. And I think she's coming along pretty well. So the rescuing is something that is not a long-term pattern to be in, because you end up with a helpless child. A child who believes that they can't do it without you swooping in, without you spinning the blades of your helicopter parent and protecting him at high school and college and dating and everything else. And before you know it, your identity kind of vanishes because you don't know where you end and they begin. And codependency has that really blurred line where you don't realize your problems and concerns are different than their problems and concerns. They can very much bleed together in a rescuing type of dynamic. So much so that a parent's identity becomes wrapped up in this idea of rescuing. You hear this in the warrior parent kind of model or schema. I'm a warrior mom. I'm a warrior parent. Wow, what a way to see yourself, being constantly at war. I'm surprised your adrenaline glands are not fried, because engaging life from an adversarial standpoint makes you always ready to argue, makes you always on the lookout for a villain. You're always having your dukes up. That's a very, very sad way to live. It's very, very one-sided. It's me against the world. It's me against those ignorant people who don't accept my child, or whatever the narrative is. And I don't deny that there are people out there that are going to resist you, that you need to educate. But what I am cautioning you about is making that your entire lens on the world. That's what can really just suck the joy out of your life, okay? Then there are the ones that I call the people herders. They look at something that's disorganized and they want to step in and organize it. Unfortunately, and again, I'm being completely transparent here, there are times when my wife Kathy needs to herd me and the boys. When we are all scattered, we seem to lack direction, we're not sure how to get started, she needs to step in and say, okay guys, here's the plan. And she tells us what it is we need to do, and we can do it. And there are other times in her life where she sees an opportunity to add her organization to it, a situation that maybe there's a committee at work that has an outcome in mind. They're not quite sure how to do it. She'll say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You do this, you do this, you do that. And the herding, again, can be a byproduct of you having many scatterbrains in your house. You are used to being the captain of the ship. And what's unfortunate is that you can develop a really controlling nature in situations like this. You're so used to having to herd and to crack the whip and stay behind people that you begin to feel some sense of, not superiority in an arrogant way, but superiority you feel very secure in yourself because you have proven your ability to herd the cats, so to speak. And a lot of your sense of, the single mom life, Rose, no kidding. I was a single dad for a while of my 3 boys, and I had some support, but there were times where I was broken down in tears because I just was overwhelmed by the whole thing. So the mothers that need to do this for years, I so honor you. And I've worked with single moms in the past, and I honestly, that's a group of people I love working with, because once we team up and I can kind of give them the masculine component to their thought process, they really feel supported and validated, and they get that outside voice that they often lack in their life. That's a little tangent. So the people herding can provide a false sense of security because you're still enabling. You're still showing up and telling everybody else what to do. And they are letting you tell them what to do. So there's still that imbalance, still that codependency. You're in charge, you have all the answers, we don't know anything, tell us what to do. So long term for them, that's not helpful, because for the rest of their life then, they're going to be looking for people to tell them what to do. And they're going to question their own ability to make decisions and choices for their life. Okay? Now, the last term I came up with is, what is the ideal that you're moving towards? And that's the people collaborator, meaning that you see things as interdependent. And Lisa, you brought that up. Yeah, Kathy is a dynamite positive interdependent. And that's actually something that she and I sat down and discussed before we got into a dating relationship, because we were friends who became interested in each other. And we talked about what we wanted and didn't want in a relationship. We talked about that balance, that need for reciprocity, that need for us to have our own lives separate from the relationship, so we didn't put all of our eggs in one basket and think that we would die without each other. Oh, I need to be with that person. When you need to be with this person at the expense of others, you might want to look at some codependency there. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. But the people collaborator realizes that relationships are all about synergy. It's all about bringing your talents together so that you can help each other become better, be more by virtue of the relationship. You are not, and please hear this, you are not asking your partner to give any of their power to you in an interdependent relationship. Okay? Absolutely, Lisa. It's been a real gift that Kath and I were able to communicate our needs so openly. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to articulate their needs. Some people don't believe they have a right to it. Because if you're codependent, your focus is on everybody else's needs. My needs don't matter. In fact, I'm getting my martyr tattoo on this weekend for the world to see, so they know I'm here for them. And if it takes my last drop of blood and my last breath, I will be here because I care. That's caring taken way too far, tragically at your own expense. So the move that we're making here is from this imbalance of, I need to be needed, you're needy, let's get together. Or, I'm needy, I have low self-esteem, I don't believe in my own ability to make decisions, I'm afraid of screwing up, I'm afraid of meeting new people. Here, you seem to have it all together, you come in and rescue me. That happens a lot, as I mentioned, between parents and special needs kids, because they don't know what tools to give the kids, and they don't know how to empower the child to start making decisions and plans for the direction of their own life. It's very possible. I did this with my 3 boys who were having daily meltdowns and threatening to cut my head off and breaking things and throwing things and just totally out of control. And you're absolutely right. Most people don't even don't know their needs, because in a codependent relationship, if you bring up a need that is outside of the agreement of codependency, you're accused of being selfish. You only think about yourself. Well, what about me? That's the kind of nonsense you hear in codependent relationships. So articulating your needs brings negative feedback. You can't be a people pleaser and have your own needs at the same time. It's very hard. You cannot rescue people and think about your own needs at the same time, because that's a distraction. You see how much this can cost you? But when you're looking for collaboration, the question becomes, what can we accomplish together? When you bring your strengths and my strengths together, we're not assuming each other is weak. We're assuming that each other has value, has the right and capacity for self-determination. That is a powerful shift in your thinking. And when I work with everybody, I know my clients don't need me, and I don't want them to need me. I want them to have the mindset, skill set, and tool set they need to stand on their own 2 feet and use the world as their resource, so that they are always in a position where they can get what they need to solve the problems at hand. Empowerment is where it lies. Collaboration, interdependence, synergy. That's the key, and that's the shift we're moving towards. Now, I could talk about this for hours, but I just wanted to introduce to you some of these concepts to really get you thinking, because it may seem reasonable now to rescue your kids, to try and fix them, to try and please them, because you just do not have the emotional wherewithal for another meltdown today. But what you are doing short term to preserve your emotional energy, long term is going to cost you both. Because you're going to have, this is worst case scenario, okay? You are going to have a 35-year-old child at home who doesn't have a job, has no friends, and is depressed. I get these phone calls all the time, because of parents that established a codependent relationship early and didn't ever think about how to get out of it. So I don't want you to get that far. If your kids are just starting off in school, or even if your kids are in college, now is the time to dig in and start unlearning this, so you can empower that child to have a self-determined life, to create their own vision for what they want their life to look like, and giving them the tools they need by you switching from codependent to collaborative. So you start working as a team instead of you being the coach who says, give me that ball. You can't throw worth a damn. I'm doing the quarterback thing from now on. Doesn't work, okay? So please take this to heart. Continue the conversation underneath the thread. If there are any private questions you want to ask me, which I completely understand and welcome, because this is a very personal issue for many, go ahead and private message me. I want to help you through this, okay? And if there's anybody that you think resembles any of the types that I've talked about in this video, the people pleasers, the enablers, and so on, please share this with them. In fact, who do you know? You probably won't have to think very hard. Who do you know that you could share this with as soon as I'm done talking? Make sure they get it so they can benefit too. My name is Brian, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for everybody stepping in. Lisa, Shirley, Roseanne, I honor and appreciate you for showing up. It means a lot to me. We'll talk again soon.